comments on the USA women's national team boycott that they announced this morning, and your thoughts on that fight that they're putting forth here.
Yeah, very courageous. Proud of those players. I know a lot of them pretty well, and it's a huge undertaking for them, and clearly has been in the works for a long time. So I hope USA Hockey will back them up, because I know how much time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears they pour into that program, and they deserve it.
You do some work with USA Hockey, and you've coached at camps and on teams. What areas do you feel it can improve on in terms of opportunities and offerings and training programs and such for women's hockey?
Well, I think the article spells out the areas that they're looking for. So I think they mentioned youth programs, but also focusing on the post-grad players that are trying to survive while committing themselves to the program to win Olympic medals. So I think the things that they spelled out are accurate, and I don't know a whole lot about the details of what they're looking for, but like I said, I hope it doesn't fall on deaf ears.
From a college coach's perspective, there's a U.S. national team development program for men's hockey. What could something like that do for women's hockey? And is that possible to execute? You know, the men's teams, they got the junior teams to play. The women, I assume, if they formed a development program, could play a lot of the other elite.
Yep, people have talked about it for years. It's certainly something that would help the college game. It would help the growth of girls and women's hockey in this country and internationally. So I think that would be great too. The details of it and how it would all work out, that's for someone else to figure out, but I think it would be fantastic.
Do you think it'd be a killer for like the high school program? Everyone says, oh, other girls get a chance. No, there's not enough. You take the scream off the top, and the interest might go from starting to build to zero. I
think, you could say that when we have Olympic years at the college game, right? The cream gets scraped off the top. I think there's plenty of good hockey still being played during those years. So I think
colleges are spread out from east to west, whereas Minnesota is pretty unique in their.
But that's just Minnesota. There's a bigger picture here that you have to think about, and that's hockey across America. So I think you have to make some sacrifices in order to push the envelope and grow the game and get it to a place where we don't have this fight in 2017.
Maura, speaking of the Olympics, you're going to be going into an Olympic year next year. As a coach, how do you approach that, knowing that you could be losing some players for part or all the season or anything like that?
It's nothing that I haven't dealt with before. It's right now the biggest honor in women's hockey to play for your country and the opportunity to win an Olympic gold medal. So we support our players in all of their national team goals, and we will figure things out back here.
Do you and other programs that go through this, do you recruit at all with that in mind, or are those just holes you got to deal with when they come along?
No, when you recruit high caliber players, you have to anticipate that they might be invited to certain things for their countries, and you just kind of have to keep an eye on things and have good communication with those national team programs and sort of make sure that you can set yourself up back here as best as possible. Now, it's not always a guarantee that you know exactly what's coming down the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Got a couple days to digest that game against Minnesota, but obviously we talked a little bit about it on Saturday. You got to be excited for the future and the step forward in terms of culture that you took this season, even with some of the players that are leaving and won't be here next year.
Yeah, this whole season was a real statement. I think with all the firsts that we had as a team, beating Wisconsin, first for this group, obviously not the program entirely, but beating Wisconsin, beating Minnesota, being ranked number 2 in the country for as long as we were, beating Minnesota in Minneapolis, being in the WCHA championship, hosting an NCAA quarterfinal game. Those are all huge accomplishments for our team. And then, you think about all the individual accomplishments that we had and all the recognition. And we still have the Patty Kazmaier Award banquet coming up on Saturday. So just an outstanding season for our program, given the past few years that we've had here. And we clearly want to springboard into next season and the following seasons. I think things that we think about as a staff are, obviously all of those accomplishments that we just talked about, but how that has set us up for the future. Our phones, we talked about this in the fall, our phones started ringing a little bit more after that BC weekend, and we were able to land some very good recruits. So the future is very bright here, and obviously the players that were on the team this year are going to be hungry and want to get back to this spot and want more. So I think this year, like I said, was a real statement year for our program in the future.
Can you put your finger on going from where you were in your first year to where you were in the second year? Because, there wasn't a ton of changeover. You brought in some freshmen, but can you put your finger on what changed in the room with some of these players and what brought you to this level?
Oh, it's a tough one. I think I've talked all season just about the senior leadership. I don't think you can get to places like this without a fantastic senior class, and that might sound cliche, but I would put our senior class up against any in the country, arguably the best in the country. You won't see a senior class like that for a long time. So to have that group leading the way, that was huge. Maddie Rooney and net made a huge step this year and kept us in a lot of games, like I've said, won us some games, and just grew both as a person and a player, and that solidified our goaltending position. That wasn't solid last year. And then the key pieces that I've talked about this year with the depth. Sid Brott had a really good freshman year. Jalen Elms was fantastic on the back end, and Dee don't get talked about a lot, but without her, we probably wouldn't have beaten Wisconsin here. That was one of her best games all season. And so players like that definitely provided the depth. I'd say, our defensemen, we've talked about this too, were able to play more offensively. So our scoring was spread out a little bit more, not just from that top line. And I think, our second and third line players definitely stepped up as well. So a lot of people had career seasons. A lot of people improved from last year to this year. A culture change, getting comfortable with us. Just a lot of good things happened, and it takes time. You don't just walk into a job and turn things around like that. It takes time. And this happened faster than I would have expected. But again, I would point to the things I just highlighted as reasons we were able to do it.
I think 6 of your 7 losses were 1-goal games. 6 of the 7 were to Minnesota or Wisconsin, who are in the Frozen Four. Does that make you more excited? Obviously that's tough to know you're so close to being where you wanted to be. But does that make it easier to be excited about where you can be even next year?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. It's a little frustrating at this point. We just figured out we played 13 games against the Frozen Four teams. 6 Minnesota, 5 Wisconsin, 2 BC. So it still stings that we're not there because we think we deserve to be there, but certainly excited for the future and being in the conversation with teams like Wisconsin and Minnesota, who are traditionally the top 2 teams in the country every single year. That's a huge step for us. So we are proud of that, and we're excited about the future.
How much of a jump do you see Sid Brott and Jalen Elms making next year, and how much of a jump do you need them to make as well to help replace what you're losing?
Yeah, they'll have to make huge strides. We're bringing in 9 freshmen, trying to replace, like I said, what I think of as the best senior class in the country. So they're going to need to grow and develop and take on more responsibility out there, and they're completely capable of doing that. And it's up to the coaching staff and everybody else to bring those 9 freshmen along as quickly as possible. But it's going to be a different look. It's going to be a different season, and that's why we want to make sure we enjoy what we just had, because that was truly a special year.
Are you and Laura going to St. Joseph for the
St. Charles? Yeah.
St. Charles?
Chris, me, Laura, Stalder, and Katka will be there.
Okay. And as you get closer and closer to that moment, I know that she would rather be playing this weekend, and you would too, but would that just kind of be an exclamation point on her career here?
Oh, absolutely. It's, the highest honor in women's hockey, college women's hockey, so that would be fantastic, and we're pulling for her. I have no idea how it's going to go. I know she has some great competition out there, and just to be a finalist and be invited to this banquet is a really big honor for her, and I can't imagine being more proud if she wins the whole thing.
this step that she made, I mean, you talk about some of the freshmen and sophomores making, but the step that she made from junior to senior year was a pretty big one too.
Huge. We were just looking at it. I think it was 41 points last year to 56 this year. That's massive. We wrote a lot of those game-winning goals that she had, and just everywhere on the ice, defense, offense, making things happen for us, stopping other teams, and we were on her back for a lot of the season, and like I said on Saturday, we wouldn't have been in that game if it wasn't for her. And I don't like to single out individuals, because I think, she wouldn't have those 56 points if it weren't for McGovern and Bricklick and Morin and all those other complementary players around her. But to take away from what she did this season would be a mistake, because it was fantastic. And you don't have Patty Kazmaier Award finalists, well, I don't know, not on a normal basis. So it's a rare thing and a special thing, and I hope the fans in the community enjoyed watching her play here for 4 years. I said to her the other day, I wish I had 4 years with her, because it was so much fun to work with her and watch her grow and develop, and have such a special senior year.
Do you anticipate an all-WCHA final in the NCAA?
I do. Mm-hmm.
And that would, as I said, to me, you're the best 3 teams, and it would maybe bring that back into talk, right? Yeah.
I don't know how I'd feel about it, because it just, would solidify my feelings on how good of a team we had this year. So I do anticipate that happening, but you never know.
Maura, looking at the 9 freshmen you're bringing in next year, how much of an impact is that class going to have to make? And anyone you see maybe stepping up and doing what like a Sid Brott and Jalen Elms did this year?
See, the Sid Brott and Jalen Elms were U18 players coming in. We don't have a U18 player coming in, so the kids coming in are going to be blue collar, hardworking, fast learners who are eager to make an impact. And I think we have some great players in there that probably could have been on U18 teams, but they don't have that experience. So I think that's why I highlight Sid and Jalen, because they are really, really good freshmen who came in and made an impact right away. These guys might take a little longer, but we have Lindsay Zeck on defense. She had an injury this year that probably prevented her from being on that final U18 roster, but she's healed and will be ready to go. And up front, Naomi Rogie, I would say, is somebody that I'm really excited about. Played for Eden Prairie, won the state championship last year, had a phenomenal year this year, was a finalist for Miss Hockey. And so those would be two players that I'm looking forward to stepping in and making an impact right away.